Mm, 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 mm. Alrighty. So I said that I do my live streams around 7. Um, and here I am going over the crazy of the world today. And the world is crazy. The world is crazy. You know, it is just crazy. The political witching is almost over. The political witching is almost over. Americans, hopefully it's Americans, will choose their champion and hopefully people's emotions will settle down. It's so funny because, you hear people say all the time, this is the most important election of the history. And it's like, don't they say that about a lot of them? They're all the most important election of the U.S. history. And yet we see how U.S. history has played out. And we got $35 trillion in debt. And we weren't there in 1993. We were more like 3 trillion. So, yes, these political parties absolutely change history for the worse for most Americans. So, anyways, I had a chance to check out the political candidates and what they've been up to. Trump had a rally in Madison Square Gardens, and obviously, oh, by the way, my niece, she recommended that I try these crochet lock things. And remember how I said I don't like braids? I hate braids. I feel like they're going to be too heavy and blah, blah, blah. And even when I look at some of these styles, I'm like, that looks really heavy. But this is the lightest style that I have ever had. I'm very, very shocked and surprised. So, big ups to the girls who do the crochet locks because I see what you're doing there now. Now, I will be honest, I don't like braided hairstyles. And I have to get used to myself wearing braids or any type of braided type of style. So I did go for the passion lock look to just kind of kick me off with the braided look. And we'll see what happens with it. But right now, it's kind of growing on me. I don't really like the braided look, to be honest with you. So it's growing on me. It's growing on me. So I'm trying here. So, what's going on historical? I'm just talking about my new adventure doing this. My niece was like, try this crochet look. And I was like, I hate braids. I hate all of that. But this is surprisingly very, very light. And so I'm trying something new, trying something new. I'm not really crazy about it right now. She said there's some other ways to braid my hair that I might dig those styles better. So we're going to play with it. We'll play with it. But I do like the passion twist look if I'm going to do braids. I don't like box braids. I haven't graduated to that crap. But anyways, our political candidates are out on the block doing their thing. The witching is almost over, thank God. And they're making their rounds, right? Trump did Joe Rogan, and then he followed up with a rally at Madison Square Gardens. I'm gonna be honest with you, that Trump Joe Rogan interview, I don't know. I'm it was boring to me. I know people were hyping that up, but Joe Rogan came off as if somebody gave him a lot of money to do that interview. It seems like that's not something that really Joe Rogan wanted to do. And Joe Rogan has even made comments in the past that he did not want to really deal with political candidates, right? Because he didn't want to use his influence, his platform to promote political candidates. But apparently, he's had a change of heart and he's extended his platform to both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Donald Trump took the invitation. From what I hear, allegedly, Kamala Harris did not take the invitation. She decided to do Club Shay Shay. Now, I will say that Kamala Harris was smart doing Club Shay Shay. She was smart and she was stupid doing Club Shay Shay. And I want to get into this interview with Kamala Harris first. I'm not really going to talk too much about Trump. I saw his rally at Madison Square Gardens. The dude just he invigorates his crowd. There's no shortage of supporters. His crowd are very excited to see him. They're not there being fake lectured by some fringe issues about passionately ignorant things. And she said a couple of things in this interview about Trump that I definitely disagree with. One of the things she said was that Trump talks all about himself. And that's just not true. You go and you really look at Trump's rallies, and he's talking about what people care about. He's talking about what people are concerned about, and he reiterates that quite a bit. So, I think that, one thing is last rites to this political witching season is these candidates just need to be honest and or just don't say anything at all. And Kamala Harris, actually, she was helping herself a lot in the beginning of this Club Shay Shay interview, but then she went right back to hurting herself. I mean, right back to hurting herself. And when I tell you, I looked at this interview and I actually, the beginning of it, I was like starting to see a woman of, like the character, like more of her character. I was starting to see just a little bit more organicness, and I was about to give her like a couple of points, and then she went right back into that Trump stuff, and then even down to the blackness. I didn't like the way they were really trying to like just I'm a black woman, I'm a black woman, I'm a first senator this, I'm a first senator this. And it's like, Kamala, the reason why you are having an issue with the black community is that you allowed yourself several times to be sold as anything but black. Now you got Shannon Sharp tongue twisting about your identity. First, he calls her African American. Then he calls her Black American. Then he says the first Black and Indian. Shannon was so damn confused about her racial ambiguity. He was just flip flopping. He had no consistency in this little race card that he was playing. It shouldn't have never been played. And I think that if Kamala was smart, I think that somebody should have strategically helped her to weave in the conversation, because honestly, she was doing good with her little quote black card when she was just reminiscing about her childhood, what she remembered. She really didn't have to go into full fledged, repeating certain things. So, Shannon Sharp, this was a layup. This was a layup interview. Obviously, Club Shay Shay is a more relaxed platform. And so this was an opportunity for Kamala Harris to really put her organic self on the table, right? And I think she was almost there, but then the robot in her ear just started dictating to her again. And they were just they just went real in on Donald Trump again. And I'm just like, you're losing me here. And not only that, he asked her about her plan. How are you going to provide this $25,000, loans and stuff? How are you going to do that? And she really never answered the question. She just went into what she knows about something. So here we go. And this is just fair usage. I'm going to cut through here because I don't want Shannon to strike my content.
I'm only 35.
Come on now, I'm your guest.
No, but you only 30.
I'm gonna give you a shovel in a minute.
I see. You won't let it go. Dang.
She just be cackling. And you know what it is? I think that she's a bubbly person. I think she is really kind of a bubbly person. That's probably part of her personality. And that cackling is really what bubbly people do when they're caught off guard and nervous. I really think that's a nervous knack for her. I don't need the intro. No, dude, Shannon, he just went overboard with the introduction. He really tried to emphasize, her blackness. And again, I'm going to emphasize as well, Kamala Harris is culturally black. Yes, she is. She's culturally black. She tells us why she's culturally black in this interview, right? Ethnically, she's not black, right? And the problem with Kamala Harris is that she was playing the race card with her ethnicity. And that's why people aren't owning her ass right now. Because you're not going to keep flip flopping. It's like, I'm one, I'm the other, I'm both. It's like you playing hopscotch with your identity. You're not like us. Like I'm at the point now where you just you about to lose your cultural black card because you can't make a damn decision to have a conviction about who you really are. And that's really what people mean by Kamala Harris lacks conviction. You're not going to tell me that I'm not a foundational black woman. You're not going to tell me that legacies of my people who have been here, like who we are. I know, and even down to black culture, right? I know a lot of black people who are not immersed in this construct of or a construct of black culture. So it's like for me, Kamala Harris, she just hurt her own self not having real conviction about who she is. And even just having intelligent conversations about how she has come to believe about herself and what she's come to know, even in all these conversations of people challenging who she is, as a black woman, right? She really hasn't come with strong, intelligent rebuttal about that because Kamala is existing with the same construct that white looking people have, that every black looking person in America, we're all black Americans. And that's just not true. We culturally delineate, even if they choose not to delineate us. And so when you start propping people as the first black person, right? But then this person has also propped themselves as the first Indian person, divorcing the black part, right? When she ran for Senate. And I just want you guys to know, like, this is not something that I'm just coming up with, right? Kamala Harris,
You join me in
she's talking about, what is she talking about? The Native American or the Indian American something.
across the United States. I want to wish you a happy Indian Independence Day.
Hang on.
Her own mouth.
And to Indian Americans all across the United States, I want to wish you a happy Indian Independence Day. On August 15th, 1947, men and women all over India rejoiced in the declaration of the independence of the country of India. Today, on August 15th, 2020, I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent. So I hope you celebrate today, and then tomorrow, I hope you join me in getting to work. Thank you.
So, here's the thing, and nobody's telling her to divorce her South Asian anything, but you're talking about your South Asian descent. But then you're going and you're saying that my mom raised me as a black woman. So it's like pick a struggle. Just really pick a struggle because it seems like she's using her racial ambiguity when it is like profitable for her. It's like there's no conviction here because I mean she could have said something like, part of my ethnic heritage is Eastern Indian, right? And on this day, whoop de whoop, I want to celebrate my Eastern Indian half. She's not doing that. She's had zero consistency in how she's identifying, and maybe she's just as confused as us. I mean, she could be just as confused as we are, but Shannon Sharp is going to do a really good job of blackifying her.
Of the drink today. She's the highest ranking woman in U.S. history. She's made a career of being first. She's the first woman to serve as Attorney General, African American, Asian American descent. She's also district. She's been
Now
district.
he said both of them, African American, Asian American descent. Now I would challenge, are the Africans owning her? Like, if the Africans are owning her, then fine. But again, we're talking about cultural ancestry. And if you keep playing these race cards, you got to like ethnically identify people for who they really are. Jamaicans aren't Africans. Even if they have African descent, I don't think black looking Jamaicans identify themselves as Africans. So, I mean, stop using these cultural cards because there's so many ways to pick your candidate apart, especially if they're really just culturally a certain way, but ethnically they're not what they're immersed in.
District Attorney of
It's
San Francisco.
disrespectful
She was
to
the
the
nation's
people
first
of
Indian
the
American
actual
senator. She's the
group.
first woman, first
I
black
don't
Asian
think
American.
people realize why Kamala Harris selling her as a black woman is actually disrespectful to real black women, real black people who are not culturally black. We are black. We come from foundational freemen. Like that those are our flowers to have. And I think the biggest issue is they would rather give freeman flowers, descendants of freemen, our flowers to these ambiguous immigrants than to just give us our damn flowers. And this is why she's getting eaten alive by certain segments of the freeman population, is because we're tired of the old okey doke. We really are.
To be elected vice president, she set the record for the most tie-breaking votes cast by a vice president. She's the first black woman, Asian American in U.S. history to win the presidential
So
nomination
she went from African woman, then she's black woman. I mean, these.
of a major party. She's the first HBCU grad, making us proud. She's a Howard University alum. She's a member of the prestigious Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Here she is in person, Madam VP, Kamala Harris. Madam VP, how you doing?
Thank you.
So he did all that tongue twisting about her race, right? But at the end of the day, Kamala Harris sold herself as an Asian American. So it's like the race backtracking, I think, is really what is hurting her, is because we can't trust you if you can't even be true to your damn self.
Thank you very well, Shay. How
It
you
is an
doing?
extreme honor, privilege, and a pleasure to have you on Club Shay Shay. CJ, who's the
The
producer here
laughing
when
and
we
the
started this
cackling
journey,
is definitely
Madam
her
VP
nervous
4 years
knack.
ago. Celebrities, athletes, entertainers, influencers.
Yeah.
VPs and presidential hopefuls.
You know, I wish that Kamala Harris had the charisma of Trump. I really do. I wish she had the charisma and the confidence of Trump with her little bubbly personality, right? Because, I mean, she doesn't give like, I mean, she could be totally different behind closed door, but in front of the camera, she folds too much for me to say that that is a strong bitch with a conviction. You know what I mean? I know some femme fatale bitches, all right? The chicks that you just know you just should not ever try, right? And then you have like those but those are like the alpha female type ones. They're very strategic. You know not to mess with them. But the beta type of females, like these Democrat chicks, because that's what they are. They are beta females, right? They have like vindictive mindsets. They have very vindictive mindsets. And this is what I'm really like. I was thinking that some level of that aspect of her would come out, but it really never came out. So for me, this is definitely somebody who is ambitious. I will give her that, right? She doesn't have the real confidence and swag. And I don't know how she really got up into the ranks, of how she got up into the ranks, how she got them, right? Because, I can't look at a person like this, and I don't care if she was a AG or a prosecutor. This is not a hot shot. This is not a hot shot. This isn't that person that you just say, hey, character wise, you You're the person I want to do business with. You're the person that I know can get things done. This is like, I don't even know what you, this is like the weakest link. This is really the weakest link. She really is the weakest link. I don't care if she was a prosecutor. I don't care if she was an AG, right? She was a civil service. There's a lot of weakest link beta people in those roles too, thanks to nepotism and sleeping your way up everywhere. There's a lot of people in those roles, but they don't have the character. These are the people who Trump's a bully, Trump's a this, Trump's a that. No, he's not. He's a grown ass man. And a lot of you people have Peter Pan syndrome, so you don't really understand how grown ass people communicate, right? But Kamala Harris gives weakest link to me. And I don't think she's a bad person. I'm not demonizing the woman's character. You guys don't see me going all in negative on Kamala Harris because that would be ad hominem. I don't do that. But she is the weakest link. She is the weakest link. And, I think this Club Shay interview was her last rites to appeal to black voters. And I think Shannon should have stayed away from the race card.
Word on the bingo card. You here, so I want to thank you very much.
So
I thank you.
When we have guests come on, Madam VP, we like to,
we're gonna
and we
skip
thank
Cheers. Well, here we are. Cheers to everybody.
you, and said that he was no longer going to seek reelection.
Yeah.
And you got that call. Do you?
I don't care about that.
I knew I needed a moment to just be still.
She said that when Biden called her and told her that he wanted her to be his VP, she basically said that she called her pastor, and this is her sitting with herself, I guess.
And for my spirit and my mind to have clarity about
You
the
did all
seriousness
of
the
that
moment and my
meditating
role.
and all that
And,
stuff, and you were bombing in this
What-
campaign.
before your conscious
She should have been the
mind
real
and thoughts
nominee.
do.
Yeah.
And my instinct kicked in immediately that I need to focus and I need to do certain things immediately, which included making, I think we estimated I made over 100. And
Did you tell them why you had summoned them to come to your place? Did you get? You have what activities that you do in a given day?
I'd probably estimate 14-hour, 15-hour days.
Okay.
When I wake up, no matter how little sleep or how much sleep, my patients trust.
Okay. It was a big Fluff interview. And if you saw it, you saw it. Shannon didn't really challenge her too much on anything, but he did allow her an opportunity to go deeper into some of her policies. And quite frankly,
I didn't
get
it's
too much
like
out of that.
mind, body, and spirit, right? And then and that's the only time in my day I really own. And then it is these days that's support.
I mean, we're like
to know their
almost 8
power,
minutes
to
in and
not
it's
let
fluffing.
anybody suppress or silence their voice, and to vote.
Right. So breakfast. What does Madam VP eat for breakfast, or do you have time to, or is it on the go?
Bruh, don't nobody give a
But you
about
want to,
that.
but we grew up.
But
in
just keep moving, because I'm gonna give you a shovel. Yeah. Come on.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun,
Yes.
dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
Okay.
What do you listen to now?
Oh, I wish I were listening to more music, to be honest with you, because I love it. Just, but
You don't
when
have downtime, like when you have downtime.
I don't have any downtime really. I know my little violin I'm playing right now with you. I really don't. But when I love jazz.
Mhm.
If it's from Thelonious Monk to Miles Davis. I love Aretha. I
Love
was
me
just
some
with
Miles.
Stevie.
Right.
Stevie,
Coltrane.
can I tell you?
Yes, you can.
Bucket list. Stevie Wonder on my birthday sang me happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
to me.
Oh my.
Can you imagine?
No.
It's like, how you try to analyze a character as you're watching it move and stuff. I'm pretty sure people are doing that with me all day. But like it's like, I don't get this woman, right? I don't get her, right? She's like the nice liberal. Like I just I don't. This woman is so perplexing to me. Like she's just really so perplexing to me. And when I make the comparison of Kamala Harris and Trump, it's like people like, you guys don't know Trump. It's like, actually we do. We actually do know Trump, right? If you've been like, especially if you're over 40, you know Trump. You've seen Trump in the tabloids. You've seen Trump, making airways. You've seen Trump, his whole personality, his demeanor, the Playboy Trump. Dude, we know who this dude is, right? Yeah, he has the creepy. Now we don't know the private Epstein, all that stuff. Trump, like we don't know none of those people like that. Matter of fact, Epstein was rocking with a lot of Democrats. So it's like, we don't know all everything, but we know enough to be dangerous, right? We know enough to make a character assessment of a person. Trump doesn't perplexes me. He does not perplex me in his character at all, right? It's like, to me, if it's like your neighbor who's an asshole, right? It's like, you see this person every day and it's like, yep, same old asshole, right? Like, this asshole, right? If somebody says that guy's an asshole, it's like, yeah, we know. We know, right? And the longer you deal with the asshole, the more they become a little bit more tolerable because you just get used to their little asshole ways. That's kind of Trump, right? Kamala Harris, we don't know anything. She's not like, I feel like the stuff that she's giving us is still like, well, talk about this. Somebody's still telling her, okay, well, talk about this. Go deeper in who you are. And some of this felt like natural progression, like none of this Shay stuff, for the most part, until she started talking about Trump and all that other stuff. That seemed like the earpiece was working. But I think that they did try to give her a chance to be organic, right? People say, she's not likable, and it's just, it's not even about her not being likable. Like, cuz I just seem like she seems like a kind of decent person. It's just that I wouldn't want to be around her for a long time. She's not my type of person. Like, I wouldn't want to just sit there and kick it with her particularly. Like, I would kick it with like Nina Turner. We could have drinks all day, probably have a good old time talking about everything and anything, right? I wouldn't have that good time with Kamala Harris, right? I'd be trying to pick teeth to get her to talk about shit because, nobody's in her ear. So now she got a freestyle. And I think that's what it is. It's like, this woman really doesn't know what to talk about. It's like going on a date with somebody and just like sitting across the table with somebody and like nobody knows what the hell to say. It's just twiddling your fingers. It's like a bunch of um that's how she makes me feel. It's like, it's like, I'm sorry. It's like what they're trying to do. And to me, they talk about qualifications, right? She was an attorney general. She was a prosecutor, right? Um, you can be all, what I realized with the Donald Trump is that we almost kind of do need people from the business world to be president, right? Because they got the character, they got the chops to negotiate, right? They're not like little punks and malleable, happy people that, just want to lead and make everything better for everybody. It's like, you got to have a plan, you got to have intention, you got to know how to negotiate. Things have to be schemed upon. And, I just don't think her to be a big schemer. She's not a big schemer. Somebody else is going to be scheming for this woman. This is the whole thing with Kamala Harris. I don't think that a lot of people trust that she's actually going to be running the show. She's the face for the people who's going to be running the show. And that's the problem with her. She actually gives face of a puppet. They have puppeted her this entire way through. They never let her kind of be this organic person. We don't know what her personality is. Even this part of her showing more of it is too late because now it's looking kind of forced.
I was literally, it was surreal. Can you, a bucket list moment
Right.
when Stevie Wonder himself sings you happy birthday?
As an 18-year-old.
And she's like, sings you happy birthday. Like, is this resonating at all? No? Yes? Okay, cool. Stevie. You can never not resonate when you're talking about Stevie. This is her facial gestures. Like, it was like that Hillary Clinton, like, I've got hot sauce in my bag. And Charlemagne was like, no, you don't. Is it working? It's like, you ain't black. You don't keep it on deck like that. But anyways, but it's just
Yeah.
Could you
it's like
imagine
a
if
child
your life
talking
would have been
to
like this?
Never.
a beta
This many
male
years
with
later.
Never. And let me tell you, my
super
mother
duper
loved
tight
me.
pants.
She had
This dude, Shannon Sharp, like, dude, we know you work out. We know you got muscles. We know what you're doing there, right? This dude's shirt is so tight. Like, they just, like, I can see his heart beating.
every
I can really
Stevie and
see.
every
I
Aretha
might even
Franklin
see an
record.
artery
Every
for that
album.
thing. Like, I
Like
hate
literally
dudes that
every
wear
one of
those
them. So
dick
for, I mean,
riders
you
and
know,
tight shirts.
songs
It's
that keep
just
like
so
all those
feminine to me.
all
And they
those
say that
Stevie
I dress like
songs
a
that were
dude. Like,
about
maybe that's true. I'm
everything
kind
from the
of
movement to optimism. I
90s
would have never
grunge,
at
if you
18
will.
thought that he'd be singing happy
But
birthday. Ever. Never.
yeah, I can clean up well.
That's the least. I mean, but obviously everybody knows who Stevie is. He was a child prodigy, 13 years old, and
Yes,
he was doing great things. But to see, Madam VP, what you've been able to do, you've had so many firsts. The first attorney general, woman attorney general,
Yeah.
African American, Asian American descent. You was the DA of San Francisco. You were the first Indian American.
Dude keep on playing this race card with her, right? Like if Shannon cared anything about her, he wouldn't have kept playing those cards with her. He shouldn't have even been emphasizing her little race mixtures, especially because those have been controversial points.
A U.S. senator.
And second black woman ever in the history of the United States Senate elected.
But what about the Asian? The second black woman elected in the history. Like, look how she's dividing her races. She's being very ambiguous. It's like wherever she can get a token, she's getting that token. So it's like on the first Asian American, blah blah blah, because I'm leveraging my Asian side over here. But then over here, it's like, oh, there's only been one, and I'd be the second if I claim black. Oh, give me that black card. Second black woman in the history of the Senate. It's like, bro, like, seriously. Like,
Elected. Second in the history of the United States Senate.
this is like that trans stuff to me. It's like you just want us to be confused. That's what you're doing. You just want to repeat confusion until everybody don't know how the hell to speak. That's kind of how it is, right? If she gets elected, like she's so ambiguous with her race, it's like we don't even know how to refer to you.
Have you had an opportunity
Blasian?
to sit back and
Should we
reflect?
call
It's
her
like, wow,
Blasian,
the
Blendian?
work is not yet done.
That's more
Like
where I
we
am.
need
The
to
work is
start
not done.
Brangelining
The work is not yet done.
her
There's so
with her
much
race.
to do. I mean, from to your point, being in the Senate, so there is a weight of responsibility that I know we all feel, right? When we have been blessed with an experience that allows us to be a role model
Correct.
and to hopefully inspire people and to remind them of what's important or point out the things that need to be addressed. So, for example, as only the second black woman elected to the United States Senate, I took on a real role of leadership around black maternal mortality, which affects black women and affects their spouses, their husbands, their families, their children. And I feel a sense of responsibility and a very strong duty to make sure that I use my voice and in a way that is about lifting up people who.
You know, I'm gonna be honest with you, and this is just I have a lot of women in my family. I come from a family of a bunch of black women. My poor brother, my poor nephew, and my poor son they were cursed with just having all these girls and them being like the only boy in the equation each and every damn time. We love our lions. We love our lions. But we are baby factories. Like every woman in my family, we're super fertile. So my sister, she's still having kids and she's in her 40s. Like she's like so devastated that she had kids in her 40s. She was like, my whole life was already planned out, and then her husband just got her ass again two more times after her 40s. I'm like, this is why I'm celibate. Ain't nobody doing that to me. I ain't having no more damn kids. I've had my three. I've given my contribution to the world. All right. I've done my due diligence to the world. Now we just got to make them be good people. But, anyways, I'm just saying, I don't know any woman in my circle that is has dealt with death, which she's talking about. And this is another thing that they like to sort of target black people with is like these little conditions. Like, I don't know a lot of black women who are dying from giving birth, or any of that. Like, I mean, they're busy killing all the babies, many of them with at Planned Parenthood, so that you guys can use them for your sacrificial stuff. I don't understand this
Who
at
have not
all.
always been in the room.
Hello,
I just
America.
really do feel like they find these little random issues like tuberculosis, or what was the other one? Sickle cell. Remember, they were really running on sickle cell being like this danger to black people, right? Sickle cell, sickle cell, sickle cell. I barely know black people with sickle cell. I'm sure they're around. I'm sure they exist. I know only one in my lifetime, and that was like when I was a kid, long a time ago. But I don't know a lot of black people with sickle cell, right? But they were running on it like this little black women
What
are
would you tell
dying
them?
or something. I'm like, ain't no broads
If
around me
I could speak
dying
to my 18-year
about,
old
at least from
self,
what she's
I would
talking about.
probably tell her continue to keep your friends. You know, my best friend from
So I think this is definitely one of those interviews to humanize Kamala Harris, right? Like, talk about meaningful things, right?
kindergarten is still one of my best friends.
She said that
It's big
forever.
for me. Would
And that's
remember
great to
that
maintain that type of
you have a lot of
relationship.
people who are supporting you, even if they don't know you. You know, that's what young people I mentor, including to know that even when you are in that room and you're the only one who looks like you or who has had your life experience, to know you are not alone in that room and that you must therefore walk in that room chin up, shoulders back, knowing we're all there applauding you. When I mentor young women and men, I remind them that you are often going to be told, well, it's not your time, not your turn, you're too young, nobody like you has done this before. And I tell them, you know, don't you ever listen to that. Ever be burdened by other people's limited ability to understand who you are. Like, you know,
You don't
Let
even
me be
understand
real.
who you are. I mean, that's the problem.
to build.
Like, people have a limited ability and understanding who Kamala Harris is because of how she was sold by the Democratic Party and how she allowed them to sell her, right? If they allowed her to come on the mic organically herself, truly defined as a woman, actualized, and she has a lot of accomplishments under her belt, she should be a relatively actualized person, right? But she's not. She's not. And I don't know if it's just that, you know, that racial ambiguity sometimes that some biracial people deal with. And I can just remember, like, my kid's dad, he's half Korean, half South Korean, half Black American. And like he was telling me, I think they came over here when his dad got out of the army, and he was about maybe 10 or something like that. And they had a lot of sort of cultural confusion for a while because they really didn't know how they went from like all of mom's type of people, culturally South Korean, and now they're like around all these black people. Now they're around dad's people. And the black kids weren't really nice to them. Like, I mean, you know how kids can be mean. And that really, those experiences do kind of shape how some people exist. So maybe in her situation, and I've heard a lot of Asian people say this too, especially if they're mixed with black, where they're not Asian enough, right? And so many of them feel rejected from the Asian side, so they feel more comfort on the black side. And many of them become culturally black, not really immersed in the Asian culture at all. My kids aren't like that. They're very immersed in their South Korean culture. But I'm just saying some kids they have that perplexity. I look at a person like Kamala Harris, and she definitely had the light-skinned chick advantage. I mean, she was growing up in the 80s type of thing. So, I mean, you had the light-skinned ambiguous chick advantage all your life. And if she's honest about that, you don't even have to play the racial ambiguity card, which because she's had the light skin privilege, but unfortunately she's older now. She's older now. And the neck is that took the privilege away. It's not there anymore. And so now she got to kind of figure out how to define herself outside of maybe this construct of beauty that has gotten her by in in many instances. And I'm not saying that she's not smart, right? I didn't like the fact that Donald Trump called her low IQ at his rally because he was basically parroting white supremacist talking points about black looking people, right? That is definitely their talking point. So I really didn't appreciate Trump referring to her as low IQ because I'm not looking at a woman that's low IQ. She's just not fit to be the president of the United States. She doesn't have the intellectual and the business ability to be the United States. And I'm not saying that, and it really, to me, it's not about her intelligence. It's really about her business sense. It's really about her character. It has nothing to do to me with low IQ because I don't think that Kamala Harris is a stupid woman. Obviously, she's allowed herself to be leveraged this damn far to be able to even get to this point. So she can't be that damn stupid. I don't know anybody who's saying that she's low IQ that is at her level or who has been at her level. So, I mean, there's levels to these conversations for me. Um, Again, she's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but she's not the dumbest either.
Community and family. Like my mother, she understood that there is a community that she wanted her children to be raised in. Mm-hmm. And she was very intentional and purposeful about that.
And so this is where I was kind of gauging that Kamala Harris was raised culturally black. This is the part where she kind of gives it away. And I wrote some notes on here because I think it's very important to note this, right? She may have black identity because her mother intentionally raised her around black people. And have you guys ever known of a white man or a white person, right, who kind of grew up around all black people, right? More times than not, he's not going to act like your average Chad. He's going to have a little bit more soul in him. He's going to, just have a little bit more cultural influences from black people because that's what he's always known, right? That's why when people talk about cultural appropriation, a lot of times I got to dial back and kind of look at what are they saying? What person they saying? Like they were talking about this Asian chick. She's acting like a black person. She's been walking. And then when you look at the girl's hood, she was a poor Asian chick. And all she grew up around was really hood black people. So that was really all she knew. I got a friend, Jennifer, same thing. Jennifer dates black men. She's Filipino and German. She dates black men. She's always had black friends. I've never known her to hang out with white people like that. She's not even comfortable around them, according to her. So it's one of those things where I think that Kamala Harris's mother raised her to be culturally black because she was probably looking at the fact that we're in America, right? And people are going to look at you and they're going to see two black girls, anyways, especially Kamala's sister. Because if you look at Kamala's sister is darker than she is.
And so I always say to people, even when I took the stage as the nominee for the Democratic nomination,
they definitely got African
there
heritage.
is the family that you have by birth, and there is also the family you have by love.
So she's talking about her extended family. And you got to understand her family dynamic, right? She had a single mother. Single mothers, we are very tribal, right? We align with other mothers who are around the block, who our kids are interacting with. We become second moms to these people. So when she's talking about some of these black people who have influenced her life over the years, she's really talking about that extended family that I guess her mom created when they got here.
And they're equally family,
Yes.
right? And I learned that from my mother. So my mother, I had all these aunties and uncles. My Uncle Sherman, who was one of the first black men to graduate from Berkeley School of Law, who, when we were
Her
young,
mom intentionally raised her around black people. Her mom intentionally did that. And she even said a few times that her mom raised her and her sisters to be strong black women. Her mindset of herself as a black woman came from her mother.
young girls sat us down and taught us how to play chess, because Uncle Sherman said, you need to understand how the chessboard works, because that's the way the world works. There are going to be different players with different moves, and you need
That's
to
what my
see the
dad
whole
told
board.
me too.
My mother raised us around,
So you
like
gotta
my
learn
Auntie
how to play
Chris,
chess.
who went to Howard
He didn't
in
really
the
teach
50s.
me too much of anything, but
And
when we
pledged
did
to
have
Alpha
those
Kappa
moments,
Alpha. And
dude
she
did
was one
drop
of
some
my
nuggets on
incredible
me.
role models growing up. And that was one of the big reasons I wanted to go to Howard University and pledge Alpha Kappa Alpha. Those are some of the lessons that I've learned from my mother. And I try to also share with people, right? Which is the beauty of community. And it's the way I am, right? Which is, you know, the children in my life, whether ready for election.
You know, she seems like she's not a terrible person. This part of the interview softened me up, all right? It really softened me up towards her in terms of, and I wasn't really hard towards her. She was what she was, right? She was a puppet. I didn't really see too much of the personality. I see a little bit more here, but again,
You know, my
it's like
godchildren or
I wouldn't like she seems like a nice person, but like this is not somebody that I would probably like. We don't really relate to each other.
never,
I wouldn't hang out
right?
with her a lot.
That it's a collective
Maybe I
responsibility
have some drinks with
that
her
we
though,
have.
because I
Did
hear
you-
she's a drinker.
Did you know you were
So
different?
maybe that's
were
the
there
way
a
to
lot
get
of
her
people in
out.
the community that
Like
looked like you,
honestly,
like your mom?
she should have probably drank
did
that
your mom
drink
tell you were
from
different?
Shay.
Well, my mother taught us to, and everyone in my
And you know,
growing
she
up,
really does
you know-
come off as a little girl. Like, there's something little girlish about Kamala Harris. You know, I can't put my finger on it, but look at these interviews or when she is talking to people. There's something Peter Pan syndrome about her delivery where it's like a grown woman talking, but it's almost like a child's tone.
you know, they would tell all of us kids that we were special.
Okay.
I don't think we were particularly special,
Right.
but they told us we were, and we believed them.
Yes.
We believed them. I think that's such an
I like
important part
that.
of what we can all do for the children and the children in our lives. And, but my mother raised two Black girls to be proud Black women. Back to music, one of the soundtracks from my childhood was, You Are Young, Gifted, and Black, and that's what it was.
She was raised that way, right? She was absolutely raised that way. And like I said, I'm going to skip through now because after this part, like I said, up until this point, I felt like Kamala Harris was giving us a little bit more of her. And like somewhere between somewhere, this conversation is about to crash and burn for me because she starts talking about Donald Trump. So let me get this teed up. I mean, I don't know why Shannon did that.
Grief is difficult. It's difficult. There are two sides to the coin. And then to lose that person, it leaves a big void, right? That's the two sides about this. But the big part about grief is it's really important that you try to remember them as they lived and not as they died.
Right.
To remember their suffering, which grief in a way that I think
that will change what will happen if you were to become president, say in the next 12 to 13 days. Polls suggest that voters trust President Trump, former President Trump, more on the economy. What can you tell the voters, our viewing audience, our listening audience, that if you were to become president, while Madam VP Kamala Harris will be much better on the economy than what President Trump was?
So why would you be better than Trump?
Well, so I'm really glad you brought that up, Shannon. So first of all, let's clear up certain myths.
Okay.
You know those checks that went out?
Yes, those stimmies.
Right. Right.
Stimulus check.
Yeah, I know. Well, right. Yes.
We got to be for stimulus, but they call them stimmies. Okay.
The reason those came about is because there was a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives and Congress. Mm-hmm. People like Maxine Waters, people like Hakeem Jeffries, right?
Yes.
Who did the work of pushing to say, people need help right now and we need to send checks. There was a whole lot of opposition to it, including from Donald Trump's White House.
Yes, even him. I think he was resistant to it at first.
Yes. That's why those checks, remember, Congress holds Trump unlike any book, not first and foremost, but let's also deal with 4 years ago.
Those stimulus checks were sad. I don't I don't think a lot of households really did too much to benefit from those little pennies that they give us.
Tax cuts for billionaires and the biggest corporations, which caused an incredible deficit. He tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which we also call Obamacare, which benefited so many people, including and in particular Black people in America who otherwise were denied by the insurance companies health coverage because of pre-existing conditions.
Yes. That's most important. Let
I heard
people know.
A lot of people lost their PCPs under Obamacare.
With Affordable Care Act, if you have a pre-existing condition, the insurance companies can no longer deny you coverage.
That's exactly right. And if you think about what that means in the context of also knowing the big health disparities we have in the Black community, and how more likely, therefore, Black folks might be to have pre-existing conditions.
Have blood pressure, diabetes,
all of that.
Cancers.
All of that.
Yes.
Asthma for our children.
Yes. Sickle cell trait.
It's all of that. So by getting rid of the pre-existing condition ban, what that did, but he wanted to get rid of the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
What we have done, and part of my policies going forward include what we need to do to not only retain the cap that we got on insulin at $35 a month for seniors. By the way, Black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes.
Correct.
He wants to get rid of it with that Project 2025. Everybody needs to check that out. What he would do to get rid of Social Security, or at least raise the age to 70, so you'd have to work to 70 to be able to qualify.
Right.
Get rid of Medicare, get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And that's just on health policy, not to mention bringing back not only tax cuts for the rich and people, but what he would do that is about eliminating or reducing the ability of corporations to be required to pay overtime pay
So you could work, and the corporations wouldn't have to pay you for
overtime.
Who work for free?
That's right. And
That's interesting.
overtime means you are actually working a longer day, which means you are more tired.
Right.
Which means it requires more exertion. That's why we have overtime pay. So you don't take advantage of workers. In addition to all of that, we're looking at Donald Trump, basically somebody who has never been understanding of the issues that affect the community about disparities. And I'm going to talk, for example,
I gotta
about
look
how
for a
when he was
soundbite
a
for
landlord,
the Trump's overtime pay thing.
he denied
Anybody got any
rent to
sound
black
bites on that?
families. You look at what he did in terms of taking out a full-page ad in the New York Times against the Central
He
Park
said,
Five.
she makes me
which
sick. They're there. We are doing, listen, this is a trauma bond over here. All right? They're there, my friend. We are bonding together as we listen to her voice. We're just trying to listen. We're being fair. We're being reasonable people, right? So we're trauma bonding. We're being fair to both candidates, right?
were a bunch of, they're not young adults, they were teenagers.
Man, if you don't stop talking about the Central Park Five, Jay, I agree with you, bro. See, here we go. The Central Park Five. The minute, see, this is where she just went on the propaganda. This part to me is all propaganda. They need to recycle the Central Park Five. I'm sorry. That didn't have shit to do with Trump. Even if he wrote an article about those boys, right? The media had already found them guilty in the court of public opinion. You're talking about Democrat prosecutors. That was the Democrats demonizing those five boys. And if you actually go back and you look at New York and their history, Democrats' history of demonizing black men, it was literally just out there in Compton. It was literally like that, like out there in New York, these democratic cities, their racist police force, they were sicking them on black men. That was the Democrats. And obviously, their media machine narrating those boys as monsters and all that stuff. Trump is a private citizen. At this point, looking back at this horrific crime, you know what I mean? So, blame the Democrats and their media for Central Park 5. Now they're trying to come back and get some kind of weird ass penance, trying to vilify Donald Trump for some shit that they did. They're literally putting their shit on Trump when it comes to the Central Park 5. And any intelligent person should know that. It was the whole Democratic machine against those boys. And now they're turning around and leveraging them as men to be victims later on in their life so that they can demonize Donald Trump. Get out of here with that.
A bunch of, they're not young adults, they were teenagers, black and brown teenagers.
See,
Took
here's
out a
the race
full-page ad
card.
in the New York Times calling for their execution for crimes they did not commit. They were
And you know who kept doing business with Donald Trump well after the Central Park 5? All their favorite Democratic black people. Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. They continued to do business with Donald Trump after Central Park 5, after that whole housing bullshit that they keep bringing up. And matter of fact, if you want to get real talk about it, Bill Cosby, he actually had the same standards for his rental properties. He was not interested in renting to certain income levels of people, and there was a reason why. Anybody hear that Temptation song, Ball of Confusion? Hit that like. If you've ever heard the Temptation song, Ball of Confusion, people moving out, people moving in. Why? Because of the color of his skin. Run, 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 but you sure can't hide. Yeah, that song was talking about the racist folks that was moving out when they saw black folks, but it was also talking about some of those black folks who got into a little money and then they moved into these little neighborhoods and they just messed things up. And I'm very realistic about my own people. There's a segment of our people that are fucking trifling, right? And I wouldn't rent to them. And that's just cold facts. I got a home girl out here in Detroit right now. She's not trying to rent to any of her family because she's put that as an investment property for her kids, and she don't want to have to come and clean up and do all kinds of additional maintenance on it when they move out. And I'm not saying this about all black people. There are some really good black people who will maintain somebody's property like it's their own, right? But there are those anomalies. There always have been those anomalies. And even Bill Cosby said that he didn't want to rent to them. So it's like, again, you can say that's unfair, that's racist. Some people just want to make sure that they're going to get the rent, and that when the person moves out, they're not going to have to drop another 10, 20K into the property because they done messed it up.
Innocent. Donald Trump,
The
who said
Democrats,
first
they
black
be
president
putting
of the
their shit on
United
other
States,
people, though,
the
because they know
birtherish,
that's their practices.
to have people question whether he was born in the United States, to try and diminish. And then most recently, you look in this very election, legal black immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, saying they're eating their pets. So part of what we have to help people understand is
First of all, were they legal black immigrants? And they weren't black, they were Haitian. And even Haitians will tell you that they're not black. But off of that, there were instances where some of those migrants were kind of out on unfortunately. I mean, you've been traveling thousands of miles, wandering in the United States. There's nothing to eat. They're gonna barbecue them cats on the pits in the park, okay? Like Tariq Nasheed, what did he call that? What was that, man? He cried for. I don't even want to say it. They're gonna be like that video.
You're not.
Right.
He's not gonna be thinking
And
about
I'm not saying
you.
all
You think he's
people
having
do
you over
that,
for
but I'm
dinner?
just saying. And there were reportings
You think that when he's
of that.
when he's with his buddies,
And that wasn't him being
his
insulting.
billionaire
it's just
buddies, he's
what's
thinking
been
about what we
reported.
need to do to deal with addressing, for example, my work around what I'm doing to address disparities in black men's health, around colon cancer, around what we need to do around screenings, what we need to do around prostate cancer. Black men are twice as likely to have, and screenings. What we need to do to address.
I'm a survivor of prostate cancer.
Right, you know what I'm talking about.
Go, James, in the.
Okay, he had a lot of advertisements in this little interview with Kamala Harris.
Rent. I mean, it used to be when I was renting, they moved the rent up $40 a year. Now they moved it up $400.
So let's talk about that. I'm glad you raised that. So, for example, groceries, yes, the prices are still too high. You know it, I know it.
Yeah.
Part of my plan is to deal with price gouging. I did it when I was Attorney General. I'm going to do it as president.
Why didn't you do it as VP? Like, my whole thing is, what has the Biden administration been doing? It like, because what's perplexing about Kamala Harris is that she's running as if she's never been anywhere near the White House. She's running as if, as the vice president, they really didn't let her do shit. And they really didn't. Like, I mean, again, they shelved her for a whole year. We didn't even see Kamala after a while. They had Jill Biden doing some of her overseas diplomacy stuff after the Russian-Ukraine thing, because even the NATO partners was looking like, the laughter, we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. Like, we can't do it. The Europeans were like, anything but this, just bring Biden's wife. We'll do that. Right? And it wasn't because Kamala was black. It was just her nervous laugh. It's just freaking annoying, probably, for a lot of people in the business crowd.
President, which is these companies that
she's like that chick when you're like at the networking event and like somebody burst out in laughter, it's her. It's her. She's that chick.
Jack up the prices of groceries to take advantage of people in need, and in particular during a crisis like what you see around the pandemic or Hurricane Helene.
Yes. Milton.
Right?
Yes.
Milton, right? So there's that. In terms of housing.
What did the Biden-Harris do with these what did they do with Helene? I thought that those people, those Helene people, were like feeling neglected. Did they finally help those folks out?
First of all, we know that black families are 40% less likely to own their home. And we can go back to redlining. We can go back to policies that were by law or practice meant to not give black folks equal opportunity to home ownership, especially in certain neighborhoods. We
These are
can go back
talking points.
to what happened
These are
around.
literally black people talking points. Like these are black people talking points. Like these are reoccurring black people talking points. And again, you've had you've been in the Biden administration, right? Even if they pulled you from the, international foreign policy stuff, this is the stuff that you could have been doing.
The GI Bill,
Yeah.
and when all those, the great generation we called them, came back, and there was federal policy to say, you all fought for our country, we're going to give you a boost around helping you buy homes. But those black servicemen, and it was mostly men, those black servicemen did not. So you had then a time when there was a boost for, it ended up being not for black service members. So part of my policy is to, one, create a fund so that we will give a $25,000 down payment to first-time homeowners to just help people get in the door. We will deal with the rent issue because part of what we're seeing in Atlanta,
My thing is how?
in places across our country, these corporations
this
are
happen?
buying up all these properties, which means then that they don't have to deal with competition between the properties and they're jacking up rent costs. So it's about also going after that corporate gouging around what they're doing to buy up and then jack up the prices of rent. We also need to help people with small.
So I wonder how they're going to do that. I wonder how they're going to do that, right? You're talking about going after investment firms who are basically buying up all the residential real estate. They're buying people out of their homes or whatnot. Um, like, how is she going to stop that? Like, are they going to put regulations on these firms that, or restrictions or buy restrictions? I'm not really sure how they're going to be able to accomplish regulating the property ownership of these investment firms, because you can't tell a landlord how much to charge for his rent, right? You can't, like, unless it's like grotesquely above what's on the market, right? I'd be interested in understanding how these price controls are going to be, because it sounds like a lot of the private sector might be punked into to pricing things that they may not want to price them as.
Small business ownership. I did, even before I was running for president, a tour. I called it the Opportunity Economy Tour, focused on
You know
black.
what I wish that somebody would like boldly ask Kamala Harris? Like, you have an affinity for small businesses. I understand you lived above one. Have you ever aspired to be a small business owner? And what would you do at the very beginning to start, your business? What resources would you go to? Like,
Black men
because
and
she's
black owned.
talking about the SBA. Most people know about the SBA. Matter of fact, when you register your business, they kind of give you a bunch of information about the SBA. It is your choice as the business owner to actually leverage those resources and understand what they mean. I have a huge problem, and I actually do work with small businesses. It's kind of a pro bono thing. I kind of help them talk out their business plan, and all I'm looking for is feasibility, because I don't care if you love to make candles. Do the market want your particular candles, right? What is the incentive for the market to buy your $25 candle versus going over here and just getting it for $4? Same scent What is it about your candles, right? And a lot of these people, they're not doing feasibility studies. So most small businesses, they're not successful whether they have the capital or not because their idea just sucked that bad. The market doesn't want it, right? They want the market to believe in their dreams. And the market is like, we already have your dreams, right? So these like candle makers and these incense makers, unless you're in a town that's pretty niche, you don't have a local Walmart or big retailers around to really compete with what you're doing, right? Which the feasibility study will help small businesses to see that, right? You don't know if you're going to be successful or not. So my issue is that they're coming up with all these incentives for these small business owners, right? And you know, where's the ROI sometimes? Because nothing is free. You give people free money, that money has to come somewhere. It has to come from somewhere. There has to be a fund somewhere where this money is coming from, this pool of money to give people these loans and these grants. Where is it coming from? Like, that's all I care about. It's like these are great dreams and ask, like, if the government could really do this, right, for small businesses, the whole $25,000, $50,000 tax credit. Like, imagine if you're like a sucky small business, right? And like your tax credits just went from 5,000 to $50,000, right? You're like those deductions, man. I think this is a setup sometimes. Black people, be cautious. It's like the PPP loan. They're always trying to set us up to do something crazy so they can get us.
Entrepreneurs. What we know is, unlike Donald Trump, who got $400 million handed to him practically on a
It's
silver
like the
platter. And by
Chase
the way,
Bank
Shannon filed for
glitch.
bankruptcy
There's no
6
freaking way
times.
Chase Bank
Everybody wants
is
to say he's a
glitching
great
and giving
businessman.
people free
Take a look
money,
at his record.
idiots.
I know that so many of our entrepreneurs who have great ideas don't have access to capital, but they have serious work ethic, great ideas, and a plan to do the work. So part of my plan is to increase access to capital, including giving $20,000 forgivable loans for startup capital for people to buy the equipment.
Right.
Imagine giving $20,000 to like a 21-year-old life coach. I actually met a small business like that. And I'm a straightforward person. So, I don't really like to lie to people. I'm trying to get diagnosed with like maybe Tourette so that I can be brutally honest with no consequences. But I try to bridle my tongue. But this girl's like, I'm like, tell me about your business. She's like, yeah, I'm a life coach. I'm like, oh, how are you? 21? What? This is your business model. You're 21 years old and you say that you're a life coach? I'm like, you haven't lifed enough to be a life coach. Like, are you sure you want this to be your business model? Well, I think that I have a lot of valuable ideas to share with people. Like, I mean, I can just imagine her talking to like some 50-year-old person who's been in this game called life and just understands stuff like, can I be your life coach? Like, what? Ma'am, my grandkids are older than you. Like, you haven't lifed enough. Go life some more, and then you can be a life coach. That's what I think of as a dumb business idea. All right, because people will look at you. I think one of the challenges I had when I first became, it wasn't necessarily a challenge, right? But when you're like maybe a new financial advisor and you look young, straight out of high school or college, right? Your biggest, kind of insecurity is that people think you're too young to be smart enough to do the job, right? You know, and you got to get over that. But a 21-year-old life coach, you need about maybe 20 more years under your belt to be able to, for me personally, to even think about you coaching me in anything. But this is what I'm talking about. They're talking about small businesses, and like I said, I appreciate the small business and the economy. They're very important to the economy, but they don't employ enough people for us to be really centering on them We need to be centering on our industries. So, yes, we do need to be focused on large cap companies and getting them not laying off people like they have been in the tens of thousands since 2020. The freaking Biden administration is lying about the jobs report so that they can freak the numbers and make people think everything is okay. Meanwhile, manufacturing is just freaking stressed. We're not producing. I've been saying this for years. We're not producing, you know? So, my whole thing is shout out to the small businesses, but I'm kind of on Team Trump where we do need to start focusing on the large caps because they're the ones who can employ tens of thousands of people, right? They're the ones, right? Small businesses can hire a couple of folks here and there depending on their model, but they're not as likely as the large caps. And I'm very realistic of that. So, I don't even care about Kamala Harris keeps talking about these small businesses because they're not real machines in the economy. They're important, but they're not real machines that drive the economy. They're just not. We need our large cap companies driving the economy.
Then to change the tax
And
deductions,
we need
so
them
whereas it is now
producing on American
$5,000
soil.
to make it
And if they
$50,000 to
don't,
start a
then we
new
need to
business,
tariff
because
their
nobody can
ass.
start a new business
What
on
Trump say,
$5,000.
100% tariff.
And the direct
If you don't
benefit,
produce on
when we're
American
looking at
soil,
black
you're going to get your
entrepreneurs,
ass
is profound.
100%.
And all it is about saying this. Americans in general, regardless of their race or gender, we have ambition, we have aspirations, we have dreams, but not everyone has access to the opportunity to let some actually accomplish that. I
This
want
is
to
very
increase
true.
that.
And the sucky thing about America is that the people with the access, they have the shittiest ideas. They have to actually leech off of the people who don't have the access to make themselves look better. That's the crazy thing about
Access to
America.
opportunity.
The best
Listen,
ideas are
unfortunately,
not even being rewarded because they're being leached on by these people with access. It's always been like that in
in
America.
place to make sure Social Security benefits continue because there are reports that it could possibly be depleted by 2033. And there are estimated that 11,000 people turn at least 65 years of age every single day.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do to make sure, because that, people, disabilities, retirement,
Yeah.
survivors with beneficiaries, what are you going to do to make sure that that continues?
Bring more
So,
migrants.
Shannon, to your point, there was an independent economic review of Donald Trump's plan, which shows that Social Security in the next 6 years would be insolvent under his plan, meaning that it would not be able to pay out what hardworking people who deserve dignity in their retirement deserve.
Okay, what is
and
your
as you and I
plan?
both know, there are a lot of our seniors who their only source of income is that Social Security check.
Correct.
Right? If
So
they're
what you
the
gonna
only
do,
way they're going to
Pamela?
pay the rent or have food on the table. So my plan is about doing what we need to do to put the resources back into Social Security, but also expanding it. Because here's part of the problem with Social Security is that for our aging seniors, if they are a couple, for example, and one of the spouses passes, that cuts their Social Security benefits almost in half. So part of my plan is to reconfigure it so that that surviving spouse does not then have a crisis where they've already lost their loved one. But we also just have to understand on a macro level, we've got to require that billionaires and corporations pay their fair share, right? They can afford to. And that's part of what is the difference between me and Donald Trump. My plan.
So, here's the thing. Like, Social Security is a big Ponzi scheme, okay? That's what Social Security is. Right now, I am paying for whoever's getting their benefits right now, right? And the assumption is that we have enough people in the workforce that can pay for when the time where I want to start collecting, right? So it's a big Ponzi scheme. Everybody's getting their deductions, helping out their fellow man right now with the hopes that this involuntary deduction that has been coming out of our checks for since we started working, that it's going to be available. There's going to be enough money for us to be able to enjoy the same benefit as the people that we're taking care of now. So, in order for Social Security to really kind of be solvent, you need more workers in the machine. That's how Social Security is going to just remotely continue to work, is if you have more workers buying into the machine. So that means that we cannot be laying people off. We can't, because we need people working and buying into it. This is where I believe these immigrants might be even coming into play, because you can get their labor and also tax them on Social Security too. So you get them buying into the system. So there's all kinds of ways to freak the system to kind of get this Social Security funded, right? But it all boils down to workers. You need workers buying into the machine. So as they're, deducting from people's pay, right? So that they can dish out these benefits to other people, right? That there's something always feeding the machine, right? So I wish she would have just been real like that and say that, there's so many other things that, there's things that really need to happen with Social Security in order to make it a program that can be solvent in the future. And that is what needs to happen, is you need more workers in the machine. You cannot have companies laying off in the tens of thousands, because that directly cuts people out of the machine. So you're not deducting Social Security from people who are out of the freaking machine. So it just is what it is. And if you're a passionately ignorant person, you don't know anything, okay, then just go look up everything I said. Prove me wrong.
And
It's
is
your
about
job to
tax
prove
cuts
me
for
wrong.
small businesses, for working people, for middle class people. 100 million Americans will benefit around tax cuts. My plan is that no taxes will be raised for anybody making less than $400,000 a year. My plan is that we give young parents a $6,000.
You know, taxes would really make me happy if it was just a flat rate, right? I don't really like the progression of our tax system. I don't like when it's like, oh, this first set of money you get is free, right? Your labor is free at that, right? But then every time you gotta start tagging on 10,000 here, you're gonna get taxed. Nah, bro. If y'all want a progressive tax system like that, right? You talking about 25, 50,000. I want it like this. First 50,000 should not be taxed. It shouldn't be taxed at all, right? And anything progressing after that, then you have lower rates, right? If we're going to just do this progressive tax system, instead of taxing every 10,000, y'all need to be taxing you start off your first 50 is tax free. That helps a lot of households. That helps a lot of people in America who are fixed on those lower incomes. They're not making over 50,000 or whatever. That helps those people out. We have them at a very, very low tax rate, if that, right? But I don't think that an additional 10,000 of those people's money should be taxed. And if it is, it shouldn't be taxed at the rate that it's taxed. So the whole tax system needs to reform, because it's just a creative short squeeze of the American people. It's a progressive way of basically punishing you for making progress. And I've said this before, it's demonic as hell. It's demonic. Taxation is, as Walter E. Williams so profoundly said, is legal theft. That's what taxation has become in the United States.
Child tax credit to help them pay for child care, for a crib or a car seat, because you and I both know the vast majority of our young parents have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not always the resources. And back to the way I was raised, I know that the children of the community are the children of the community. That you and I will benefit from that young family having the resources they need. So it's about all of us benefiting, but it's a state of mind and it's a perspective. Mine is about thinking about the challenges people face and getting them help. Donald Trump is full-time focused on himself. You watch his rallies. He will spend full time talking
See,
about.
when she diverts to Donald Trump, this is where she just start sounding ridiculous and ad hominem, because what she's saying is just not true. It's just not true. It's not true. It's not true. Like you look at these Trump rallies. The dude is
I
talking
was going to say
about a lot
Freddy
of
Krueger,
things that
Hannibal
people are
Lecter.
concerned with.
It might as well be Freddy Krueger, Hannibal Lecter. He'll spend full time talking about his grievances, about what everyone has done to him. He'll talk about himself, but he does not talk about the American people. He does not talk about what he's going to do for middle class. He does not talk about what
See,
he's going
she
to do.
gotta leave this
This is
stuff
probably
out
one of the
because
most
this is
serious
lies.
elections. Be the kind of president who spends full time focused on the needs of the people. That has been my career. I have spent my whole career as a public servant trying to uplift the condition of other people.
Them black
knowing
men in
what your
California,
president is
they
going-
would beg to differ. They would beg to differ.
filling out his enemies list, spending full time figuring out retribution and revenge, or looking at the Oval Office and knowing you have a president in there who's creating a to-do list that's about what to do to help the American people.
Where was this to-do list all this damn time she been in the Biden administration? Like, I don't understand. Like, she just wasn't able to do anything. Like, she wasn't able to put any ideas on the table. It's like, I don't understand what has been her job for the last almost 4 years. Is it just to be the ambiguous looking woman that they were going to eventually leverage to be the president, their puppet, right? You know, it's I don't
So
understand it.
raising minimum age of
She literally converses like she's literally been nowhere near the White House. That's how
Social
she
Security,
gives
that's not
sometimes.
on the table for you.
No. Look, people work hard all their lives. And they deserve to be able to retire with dignity. I'll tell you how I come at this. I come at it from a number of perspectives, including thinking about how I was raised in terms of how you take care of the elders, right? I think about it in terms of taking care of my mother when she was sick and dying from cancer. So one of my policies, for example, is to help Medicare pay for home health care for seniors. Why? Because
That's a great idea, but you know what's also a great idea? Not taxing Social Security. And Trump put that on the table. And they leeching off of Trump's ideas anyways. If I were her, she's going into all these diatribe about the seniors and all this stuff and taking care of the elderlies. It's like, okay, well, what are your thoughts that Trump is saying that he is willing to eliminate Social Security tax because we shouldn't be taxing fixed income Americans? So what are your thoughts on that? Like, he should have asked her that. Like, cause that would have been
look,
a
I
great.
did it.
See, if I was interviewing her, right? Since you want to talk about Trump so much, it's like I would have just laid a question like that. Trump says that he is looking to eliminate taxes on Social Security. Have you thought about anything like that, and what are your thoughts of it? Right? These are the questions that these people need to be asked, right?
And
They're not
means,
giving it to her.
trying to cook
They're
for
not giving
an
it to her.
elder.
And this is the sucky thing for Kamala Harris, that she doesn't have people really challenging her like that. They're not really challenging her. They're giving her like these softball, platforms where she can kind of just air her grievances, make sure she can clearly state what her ideas are, right? Even though they
To make
seem
something
like
they feel
fluff.
like eating, right? To help them put on a sweater. And we have so many people who are in the sandwich generation. They're raising their young kids and taking care of their parents. And either they have to be able to take care of their kids and their parent. And I just believe that's not right. Plan is Medicare pays for home health care.
Okay.
And no, I would not raise the age of eligibility for Social Security, because the same thing. We shouldn't force people to work until they're 70 in order to retire.
Did Donald Trump want to raise Social Security until 70? I gotta go look. Trump raised Social Security age. I gotta like kind of do my research on some of these things that some of these people say because they all just kind of be spouting stuff, and it's like, really, he said
And
that?
have
Let
a
me go
moment
back. I
to
gotta
just
look at
enjoy
that.
their life and not worry about how they're going to pay their rent?
Is Medicare for all a priority for you?
What is no. What is a priority for me is making sure that access to health care is a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. That's why I am in favor of and have pushed and been a leader on capping the cost of insulin at $35 a month. And why I intend to allow Medicare to actually negotiate against the big pharmaceutical companies to bring down the cost of prescription medication for everybody. That's why I have fought for what we need to do around making sure Medicare covers senior care. Access to health care should not be a question of how much money you have in your back pocket. That's just not right.
If they're focused on
Blacks for
senior
Trump.
care, I'm with that.
Donald
I'm
Trump's
with any
history.
policy that focuses on the seniors. I really do.
With blacks, where did this come that all of a sudden, I mean, it's been like this.
Hold up.
It's feel that Trump is better for the black community. Can you
Hold on. Let me go back to the
About
whole
that.
question.
blacks for Trump? They feel that Trump is better for the black community. Can you explain the Donald Trump's history with blacks? Where did this come that?
See, this was a bad question to ask her. It was a bad a question to ask her because she's going to go into all that proper Democratic propaganda. And everything that she's mentioning.
So, I mean, it's been like this because a lot of people used to say, I'm Donald Trump of the ghetto because he was, I mean, for a lot of blacks, not all, but for some blacks, he was, Madam VP, whether we want to admit it or not, he's revered by some blacks.
And Shannon needs to be real. See, and Shannon Sharp is older than I am. And, you know, he should have just said the realest thing of all. Before Donald Trump ran for president, not one the black community never associated him with anything against us. This man has won NAACP awards. He has done a lot of business. He has supported black endeavors. Trump has Trump has done more for black people on a grassroots level than Kamala Harris. And we got to be real about that. Donald Trump, outside of just being President Trump, he has actually done more for black people, black community, black initiatives than Kamala Harris. And you can ask Jesse Jackson, ask Al Sharpton, because after all of this stuff that she's about to go into, those brothers were still doing business with Trump. They were still kicking it with Trump. They were still partying with Trump. They had zero problem with Trump up until he ran for president. And Shannon, be real, man. You could have just asked her that.
But here's the thing.
But here's the thing. She can't really rebut that, right? Because it's like,
everybody, should he be president of the United States?
Okay.
Right? That's the question. Should he have the ability to sit behind the seal of the president of the United States when he says he wants to terminate the Constitution of the United States? You know what that would mean? In the Constitution of the United States is your Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable search and seizure, your Fifth Amendment right, your Sixth Amendment right to an attorney.
Well, a lot of rights going to be gone. The First Amendment.
But the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. Yes. Look, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. I don't believe we should be taking anybody's guns away. He wants to terminate the Constitution of the United States. He is the same one, like I said earlier, who denied rent to black families, who took out that full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of those children.
Propaganda points.
Birtherism accusations against the first black president.
He wasn't black, okay? Barack Obama wasn't black. I mean, honestly, the whole birtherism thing, it's kind of full fruition for me now that I kind of understand like delineation, black delineation. Barack Obama is not a black freeman. He is not a descendant of freemen. He is not a foundational black American. And I don't care who was questioning his lineage because this is how we got here with Kamala too, right? They're not freemen. And white Americans, even y'all need to understand y'all freemen. Y'all need to know the difference between core black, foundational black Americans and an immigrant. For real. Barack Obama's father is from Kenya. Okay? His mama is white. Okay? So they ain't got nothing to do with black people on a good day except for the fact that he looked like a black looking dude. Same thing with Kamala Harris. And this is the Democrats' fault because they love playing the race card. They love first this, first this. They want to tokenize everybody because of their identity instead of their capabilities. So now we're in the delineation mode where it's like, y'all not going to pull the old okey doke on us anymore. Not going to do that anymore. So no, Kamala, you still not with the conversation, and you still adamant about repeating these Democrat talking points about not only your identity but Barack Obama's. They're not in any position to vilify Trump about questioning their ethnicity when they're not even being honest about their ethnicity, and they're allowing the Democrats to sell them a certain way just so they can get the black vote. So I don't care about that birther thing because at the end of the day, in delineation mode, neither one of them are black. They're not freemen. So that there's that.
Mention his, please ask folks to Google Project 2025.
Yeah.
He would get rid of the $35 a month cap on insulin. We know how many of our seniors had it. I'll give you another example of why Donald Trump has not earned the support of folks to be president of the United States again. When he was president the last time, during the height of COVID, 1 in 3 black Americans knew somebody who died from COVID.
Man, here we go. Remember your people who died from COVID, you guys. That's the reason to vote.
You remember those days?
I do.
And people couldn't get their hands on a COVID test?
I don't know not
At
one
that
black
very
person that was
same
starving
time,
for a COVID
Donald
test.
Trump as president secretly sent COVID tests to the president of Russia.
Are they really going to do this? See, this is the shit that I'm talking about, right? They should have abandoned this whole damn conversation. They should have abandoned this whole damn conversation. They really should. This is not a scare tactic for black people. I don't believe that, like, Donald Trump sent COVID tests over to Russia when black people were scrambling for them. And then black people kind of thinking back like, do I know any ninjas that was really scrambling for a COVID test? No. 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 It's a moot point, but
Russia.
this is a scare tactics for black people. Donald Trump puts Russia before black people. Meanwhile,
For
y'all
his
done put
personal
Israel
use.
and
Well, Americans
Ukraine
were dying
before our
every day. He has
reparations.
not
So we're
earned the
not really
right
checking for this
to
conversation.
be president
At
of
least
the
I'm
United
not.
States. It's one thing if he has a television show that's very popular. He can put his name on a building. Even though we all know he was not a terribly good businessman, which is why he filed for bankruptcy 6 times. But that is
Those weren't personal bankruptcies. Those weren't personal bankruptcies at all. Matter of fact, his bankruptcies were those hotels and resorts. And I can kind of think about, here's the thing about Donald Trump, and I actually looked this up because I looked at this interview earlier, so I was just trying to get a gauge as to, what his bankruptcies look like. So the Trump Taj Mahal was he filed for bankruptcy in 1991 with the Trump Taj Mahal. To keep the casino open, Trump made a deal with lenders by giving up half of his ownership and equity in the entity. He sold his airplane and his 220-foot yacht and agreed to a bank set limit on his spending if he would lower the interest rate and have more time to make his loan payment. All right. Trump Castle Hotel and Casino in 1992. Trump Plaza Hotel, 1992. In the last year, Trump filed Chapter 11 protection for two or more Atlantic City hotels. Trump was able to make the principal and interest payment on bonds. At this point, the Taj Mahal was competing with the hotel casinos Trump Plaza. So he actually had businesses that were competing with each other. Trump was way too aggressive with his hotels. That was the crazy. That was probably why a lot of those other business ventures failed. It was kind of greed there, maybe over ambition, right? But let's see. Trump Plaza Hotel. This was the year that the Trump filed bankruptcy protection over Trump Plaza Hotel. Trump gave up his 49% stake in the property to secure better terms from lenders on the hotel's debt of over 550 million. All right. Let's see. In reporting from the New York Times in 2016, Trump put up a small amount of his own money, moved personal debts to casinos, and was awarded millions of dollars in salary payments and bonuses. The Times countered by sharing the burden of his failures fell on the investors and those who bought into his business acumen or self-assessment. It says that three of the casinos related to bankruptcy came out about the time of the early 90s recession and the Gulf crises. Both of these situations made keeping Atlantic City, New Jersey gambling facilities face some hard times. Okay. And so just giving some context to why those businesses struggled, it seems there were some economic situations, some global situation that was probably impacting the hospitality industry. And consequently, since COVID, there's been a lot of hotel chains and resorts that have filed for bankruptcy because of COVID. So I mean, but what I am looking at is Trump had some additional business failures. And I don't look at things as failures when you try to do something, right? There's a lot of people sitting up there like, I wish I could start this business, or I should do this, or I should do that. This dude looks like he gets an idea and he's all in on the idea and he's doing it. So he's truly a businessman. And so, I think failure is okay if you learn something. I always tell my kids it's okay to lose, just learn how to win better, right? And Trump has obviously learned how to win better. And he has even made statements, I believe, that the bankruptcy process is actually something that can be leveraged for business owners. So think what you want about that. But yes, he did have some business failures, but Kamala doesn't have any businesses at all to fail, so we don't really have anything to measure. We know that she was successful in locking up black men.
Is one thing. To be president of the United States means to try and find common ground, to build consensus, to lift up the American people instead of trying to beat people down all the time. It means solving problems, which means you have to be able to get out of your own head and scan to be concerned about the well-being of other people and then do something about it. Does anyone think Donald Trump thinks that way?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, he like, yeah, well, Shannon got like, yeah,
And then do
well.
something about it. Does anyone think Donald Trump thinks that way?
yeah, well, empathy requires you to divorce your own ego to see yourself as someone else.
That's exactly right. And we know that's not his character. So it's about, is this the right person for that job, right?
He said immigrants are taking black jobs. I don't know what those black jobs that they're taking. Can you elaborate on that? What the immigrants are taking? What black jobs are they?
Well, it's just another example of him trying to divide and him trying to scare people. It's just
Well, I'll give you an example of a black job that I keep seeing reoccurringly. There is a lot of investment in the infrastructure across the country. I live in the Midwest, and I'll tell you, I was driving out for a business meeting in St. Louis. I live in Michigan. Don't even ask me why I didn't fly, but like sometimes I just like to get on the road and just put on my music and just drive. That's just like my thing. I prefer to drive. Sometimes it's not that I'm scared to fly. I just don't like flying. I don't even like the hassle of airports. But so I'm just driving and I'm just going. And honestly, the way that I went, you're going Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, you're just going through the Midwest, right? And oh, where was I going with this? Um,
Know that what the immigrants are taking, what
Okay,
black jobs.
so you see all of this construction going on. I had to bring myself back because I was just thinking about the last time I was driving. I was listening to Deftones Outer Space. That was a great drive. But there were a bunch of Mexicans, can speak English. No stab at our Mexican brothers and sisters who are legally here, right? But there were a lot of them who were working these infrastructure jobs. And obviously, they are cheaper labor. And so when you go and because even outside of Mexico, Mexicans are cheaper labor, right? And so you got to go back to my video I did last week talking about why Trump loves tariffs, right? Because in that video, I talked about the disparities of skilled and unskilled workers between Mexico and the United States. And you're talking about, before NAFTA, there was a huge disparity of unskilled workers in the United States versus Mexico. But if we're open border, right, then that disparity shrinks. And it's like, why even like NAFTA is nothing when we can just ship the unskilled people here and open our borders to them, right? So to Trump's point, when they're thinking about talking about black jobs, I can only imagine he is referring to the skilled labor jobs, which historically black and Hispanic men have pursued those jobs to feed their family, the legal ones, the ones who were born here or naturalized the right way, they've had those jobs. So when you do have an influx of human liabilities that both Democrats and Republicans are leveraging, right, for cheaper labor, they are kind of taking out even white men. You're talking about rural white men. I'm sorry, rural white men. Let me stop. Let me put y'all in there too. Rural white men too, because they tend to be more on the lower labor class side of the house as well. So they're not just taking black jobs, they're taking black jobs, white jobs, everybody's jobs who are on a lower level labor worker, plane that they're taking your job, right? Because if they're working them for cheap, you're not working them. And those are desirable jobs because they're construction jobs, they're infrastructure jobs. Those are jobs that absolutely Americans can do and will do.
Black jobs are they?
Well, it's just another example of him trying to divide and him trying to scare people. It's just another example of him doing that, of him trying to say it's either you or them, right? Mm-hmm. And the other thing is that it's incredibly demeaning because, and he still has not been forced to define, Donald Trump, what do you define as a black job? Because let me tell you what I define as a black job.
Construction
Vice
jobs.
President of the United States.
That's a good one.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It is. I don't know about the pay, but it's a good job to have. That'll be.
I can't wait for us to have a black vice president of the United States one day. I look forward to that. I really look forward to the day where we can have the first black freeman, descendant of freemen, president and vice president of the United States. Right now, the immigrants Congratulations. Products of the immigrants, congratulations. You guys got your flowers, and you didn't even have to go through much like we did. So I do look forward to having the first actually black president or vice president of the United States, actually black American, born generations of blackness on this soil, not somebody who immigrated here after our struggles and our civil rights have been fought for, won, and now you're a beneficiary of them.
You know, not everybody is Shannon Sharp.
No, but
Because that's
you know
really
I
what
wanna ask-
Kamala Harris is. She's a beneficiary of freemen. She's a beneficiary of our struggles, our plights, our humiliations. People like her are beneficiaries of it because we've been on this soil for centuries. And they
You've
still
been in
won't give us our flowers.
basically your adult life. You've been a public servant.
Yes,
We're
I have.
still
AG,
propping these
my whole
ambiguous
adult life.
looking
You've been a
people to
DA.
be black.
You've been a senator. You've been VP. Is that what you envisioned? Is that what you always wanted to be? Was a public servant?
I've always wanted to serve. You know, I was raised, I mean, back to whether you are, however you are raised and serve, and we can do it in different ways, right? I chose public service. You chose it. I know the difference that I and we can make when we believe in what is possible and then work hard at it. And my pledge in this campaign to everyone, regardless of who you are, where you live, what you look like, I will be a president for all Americans.
I think she should be a
with the
motivational
anger.
speaker. She's not giving Bryce like president. She's giving like motivation speaker. Like she's giving like Tony Robbins, like Blasian Tony Robbins. Like that's like her niche.
With the hate, with
Like, she
the
needs to do something
division,
like
the
that.
attempt to have Americans pointing their fingers at each other. I think people are exhausted. It's not healthy for the productivity of our country. Like, do we want to strive? Do we want to thrive? Or do we want to spend full time with vengeance, demeaning other people? And living a life of service is about, I think, the importance of lifting people up, not tearing them down.
My team here at
Okay. Well, and neither one of these political candidates are really touching on these proxy wars.
they say they're going to do this. They're not.
I don't think they're allowed.
They're telling you, laying out their elaborate plan on what they're going to do. But it seems to you, when you promise that if I'm president, this is what I'm going to do in the first 90 days.
You said
this is what
she's
I'm going to
reading
do.
from the
My
Obama
administration's gonna do,
playbook.
while
I'm
in
telling you,
office.
this
You're
sounded
pandering.
mad.
How do you get through to those that says, look, this is what I'm going to do. If I'm elected president, these are the policies, and they will lead to meaningful and impactful change.
Well, part of it is just to be candid. I think that there's sadly a misinformation out there about
Yes.
who I am and what I've done. Because if people are informed about fact, they will know that almost everything that I'm talking about doing as president is built on a foundation of work that I've been doing for years. If it is about economic empowerment of the Black community and all communities, I've been working on that. As vice president, I am responsible for billions of dollars from big banks and big corporations, including technology companies, getting into community banks to increase access to capital for minority-owned and other small businesses. If you look at my work over a period of years, my focus again on something like maternal mortality is longstanding, which directly impacts Black men and Black women.
Right.
And the Black family. If you look at the work that I am doing that is about small businesses, you know, the person who helped my mother raise us, who was a second mother to us, was a small business owner. I have always focused for such a long time on what we need to do, knowing that our small businesses are part of the culture of our communities,
Thank
right?
you. Don't say
Including
they're
the economic
backbone.
fabric and strength of the community. So what I'm talking about doing right now is
I'm
based
glad
on
she walked back. They're the backbone of our economy because I hate it when people say that about small businesses. No stab to you, small businesses. You're just not. You are not.
standing work. It's not new.
We
But
wouldn't
as
even
president of the
survive if
United
we had to
States,
rely on
part
y'all.
of why it is important is it is a new approach to that job. It is about a new way that is based on a new generation of leadership, that is based on new ideas, and frankly, a different experience that brings my commitment to the work I am talking about into
You know,
being.
she said that a couple of times, and I'm just really curious. She said that she's a new generation of leadership. I'm assuming she's talking from the Democratic Party. You know, what makes this generation of Democrats different than these old people that are kind of phasing out of the game? I would really love to know that, because it seems like, you know, we're talking like if she's a new generation, and like let's just say Kamala Harris and AOC are the new generations of the Democratic Party. It's like run over to the Republicans as quick as y'all can. Just going on over there. Just going over there, because there's a lot of emotions
Can you give
and
us a
not a lot
breakdown of
of
how you will allow blacks and
rationality.
other
You know what I
minorities
mean?
to access capital? Because you
They're
speak a lot
very
about capital,
passionately
and in order for
ignorant,
people to
these
become
new
successful and have
Democrats.
some
So I
wealth,
hope they're
is
not
that
the
they
new
need to have
generations
access
of
to cash to get
leadership.
started.
So that's in fact why I did starting last or earlier this year my economic opportunity tour way before I was running for president, because I realized that so many of our entrepreneurs don't actually have that we need to do better in getting information to people about what's available to
I
them.
don't want to hear this. Okay, this is. Let me just. I don't want to hear about the small businesses. No stab to you, small businesses. I work with you for free, right? But it's just not the conversation.
So my approach is really understanding the culture, understanding the needs, and then trying to fix problems. I love fixing problems with common sense solutions. And again, look, Donald Trump has never he is
All
never
right,
going to.
I'm done with that. I don't want to hear any more of her voice. So, I felt like in the beginning of that interview, there was some organicness there. Okay. I really do felt like we were kind of like getting this inklet of who she was. And then she brought it right back to the puppet. She brought it right back to the propaganda talking point, right back to the robot kind of thing. It's like, you know that movie Stepford's Wife, right? I feel like we're dealing with Stepford's candidate with her. Like the Democrat literally just making these folks. They just making them in a factory somewhere and throwing them at us. Right? I don't want to hear this anymore. She's, really trying to blackify herself. Um, and Shannon Sharp just kind of helped her out. I want to hit one last point and then I am going to get out of here, right? At that Trump rally, right? Donald Trump needs to be careful. And I've said this before. He really needs to be careful about some of these people who are leeching onto the MAGA movement, because the MAGA movement has a lot of ops. Definitely got a lot of ops within their fold, and some of these people are going real hard on the white supremacy, and they're actually going real hard on the racism. And I think that's by design, because they're trying to narrate Trump as a racist, right? So you got a lot of control opposition in these MAGA movements. And I am going to call out that comedian that was at his rally talking about Puerto Rico is trash, right? He knew that was an outright racist comment. But I want to give a lot of points to the MAGA crowd that was there. And that really shows you that a lot of those people do not rock with racism, no matter how white they look. A lot of people were booing him like, dude, this is not what we're doing, this is not what we do over here. So a lot of white people don't rock with that racism stuff. It's like, bro, get out of here with that. There was another MAGA app. There was a Trump rally on the boat. These guys came in and they infiltrated that rally with all these Nazi signs, right? and the Trump rally people got with their asses again. So good job to the Trump people for at least identifying the ops on your side and getting busy with them as much as you can, because there's a lot of these black ops, psyops that are going up in there, and they're really making, they're really putting on the racism really hard, and they know that Trump's base is a reflection of him to some degrees. So a lot of these racist people being overtly racist, I really do believe that that's a way to make Donald Trump look bad as well. So watch y'all people. Watch y'all people. The other thing I wanted to say is shout out for Trump for telling the truth. This one, first of all, I don't hear a lot of Democrats talk about the babies, the children that have been missing from the border. Trump is saying that 320,000 children have either been killed or missing from this border crisis. This is a shame. This is a disgrace. This is very, very disgraceful, because to me, it's like you can't justify open borders. These people are risking their lives, yes, to come here, but they don't even know what they're coming into, right? We got so much sex trafficking in the United States. I don't even understand why we would even think that open borders was necessary, right? Trump, he talked about his wall. He said he built hundreds of miles of wall. Are the hundreds of miles of wall that Trump built for the wall, are those still up, or did the Democrats destroy them? Like the little black neighborhoods during the BLM riots. Did those get tore up did the border wall get tore up during the BLM riots? Like they did those black neighborhoods, right? Let me know. And, here's the thing. Trump knows the people that are coordinating against him. And I think that Trump is smart enough to see the coordination against other people too. And one thing, like I said, I don't think Donald Trump is a racist. Never thought the man was a racist. I don't advertise for the Daily Wire. Nope. Matt Walsh, I think that you might be a little hidden racist, but you can go ahead with your little documentary. Ain't got nothing to do with me, bro.
So having him,
I like Matt Walsh's documentary about the trans people, whatever like that. But Matt Walsh seems like an angry attack beta white dude right now, and racism is a trigger for him. So I don't really rock with Matt Walsh right now. But Donald Trump, like, let me give some love to my homeboy Eric Adams, because we know they setting you up like me, right? Trump is smart as hell. I did a video on Eric Adams. That brother, he literally, people don't talk about Eric Adams like this, right? Eric Adams just came back to the Democratic Party when he ran for mayor, all right? He left the Democratic Party in 1997. That man has been a Republican for decades before he came and became the mayor of New York and decided to run on a Democratic ticket, right? Eric Adams, in his heart, is a Republican, right? And Eric Adams, he was doing fine as these Democratic puppets until he started talking about them and that immigration in New York. And all you know is that they just started coming down on Eric Adams. That was very observable, but it's interesting to hear Donald Trump also show that, hey, I observed that as well, that they were setting your ass up, Eric, because they did the same damn thing to me. He said, these are vicious people. What'd he say? He knows these people well because Trump used to kick it with them. Remember, before Trump became president, he was friends. He was rubbing shoulders with a lot of these people that are trying to take him down now.
She wants the totally non-violent crime. She pledged to confiscate your guns. Is there anybody in the room that would like to give up their gun to Kamala?
Now it's so funny because Kamala talking about she loves the Second Amendment and Club Shay. You see how these people kind of talk in different ways, right? She's saying, I love the Second Amendment. Donald Trump is going after the Constitution. Now here, Donald Trump is saying,
I
no,
had a
she
feeling
wants
you
to get
might
rid of
say
guns.
that. And
She's-
endorsed a total ban on handgun ownership. I don't think
So
that's
he's
true.
talking about, no,
When a
actually,
criminal
she's
crawls
against
into
the
your house at
Constitution
night,
too.
it would be nice to be able to at least have a chance, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be nice? She even called for free sex change operations on illegal aliens in detention at taxpayer expense. Think of it, at taxpayer. She said,
I don't understand that at all. Like, why are our taxes even remotely going to something like that? Why are our taxes going towards these type of surgeries being accessible to criminals in society? Like, this is a real thing. This is not propaganda, right? Like, you should absolutely know and care about where your tax money goes. And it's going towards basically transgender surgeries for criminals. Why do we care about their desires to be something else? And why does our money need to pay for that? Take them to
they're
Israel.
caught,
They
they're
can get all that
illegally
stuff done
detained,
over there.
But if they want a sex change operation,
Isn't that like their thing
she's all in
anyways?
favor. Now, she gave this up about a year ago, a little more, because it didn't work. It wasn't working too well with the electorate. But she'll be back to it because that's where it is. She's a radical left person from San Francisco. She destroyed the... I got a call from Sundar. Very smart guy. Just to prove a little point. See, you never know how something's going to work out, Mr. VP. He said anything we've ever had, but let's say it's close. Lied about McDonald's. She'll do this, she's going to do... It's the exact
said
opposite
she
of
lied
what my
about-
policy. Want to frack? No. I'm all for fracking, and I have been for... One thing I have been, even the enemy, because they are the enemy, what they've said, even that enemy too, and they're really the enemy. They're the enemy of the people, the press. They said one thing about me that I consider a great compliment. They said, this guy is the most consistent person we've ever seen.
Cold facts. Cold facts. Cold facts. I've been saying this. I'm not a Trumper, right? You're not going to find anything MAGA in here. I am very, like, I look at this stuff from a very neutral eye. I just sit back and I look at it all play out. This guy has been consistent. There is no mystery about Donald Trump at all. Who he is, what he's like, what his policies are, right? You know, what his character is like. With Kamala Harris, she is giving Stepford's wife. She's giving puppet. She's, and you know, and even in this last rites of the campaign, it's like we're only really getting like these little other inklets of her because she hasn't really given that. But even still, she's given scripted, she's given puppet, and I don't care. Sonny Hostin, she's such a dingbat to me. That chick from The View, right? She's like, I call that discipline. No, that's scripted, Sonny. That's totally scripted, right? Anytime you can play a montage of a person saying the same damn lines and never deviate from the tone when they're saying the lines, that person is freaking scripted. All right? They're scripted like that. There's no other way to call it, right? Let me go here for a second. So, I mean, it's just crazy. What was it? This one. I think it was this one. Hello, Poland. Okay. I want to see if this is the video, because here it is, guys. I found it. Boom.
Quote,
The very angry woman.
who wants to be president of the United States, who has called for the quote, termination of the Constitution of the
Why
United
did Trump
States.
terminate the Constitution in his first run? This is from one of my older, like, couple of days ago. When they have done that the first run.
Behind the seal of the President of the United States.
All right.
Should never again have the privilege of standing behind the seal of the President of the United States.
You did it, Kamala.
Never
Every time.
again stand
She did it. She nailed it. They're like really loving her. I'm telling you, I covered this. I'm like, this is how you know this chick is scripted, all right? This is how you know she's screwed. Sunny Hostin, that's not discipline, honey. That's discipline in saying the same damn lines with the same damn tone and transition. That's what it is, right? That's what it is. That is completely scripted. No, it's not called politics. It's called not being your damn self. That's what it's called. It's called not being your damn self. It's called being a damn puppet. Absolutely. It's called being a chameleon, Randall. Absolutely. She transitioned that very well. I mean, that's what it is. Nobody's puppeting Trump. I mean, you want to talk about it's called politics, being a robot, being a puppet. Who's puppeting Trump? He's still out here slick talking people. Like, come on now, people, be real, you know? And it's not about her being a woman, right? I know a lot of women with convictions. I know a lot of women who are dogmatic. I know a lot of women who are just like Donald Trump. And they're nice people too, right? They just don't play those games. They're about their business, right? Kamala doesn't have it, you know? She doesn't have, like, if I were North Korea, I'd be like, yeah, get that broad in. Yes, that's why Russia wants her to win. Russia wants Kamala Harris to win, right? So he can embarrass her ass as a president all over the world stage, just stunting on her ass. And you see how she freezes up when people challenge her, like her teleprompter, like it went off and she didn't know how to just freestyle it, right? Because she that damn scripted. Let me tell you guys something. I literally looked at both of this rally and this interview, right? I wrote like a few notes. I'm freestyling every single blog. I'm looking at the information that I want to talk about. I'll go through it. I'm freestyling, right? She cannot do that. All right? I have character. I have conviction. I have a lot of people saying all this kind of crazy stuff. You're ugly. You look like a man, right? That don't shake my conviction. I'm like it's like the Old Spice commercial for me. It's like, you're looking at me. Now let me look at you. And I'm going to look right back at me and it's like, I know why you saying stuff like that. So I don't let people shake me. I know how to get with people. People kept saying Trump was mean because he was getting with these rude ass people, calling them names, calling them out. He's mean. He's this. No, well, you shouldn't have opened your damn mouth and called him out of his name. See, these people like to throw rocks and hide their hand. It's like, well, you're a politician. You're supposed to have decorum. It's like, no, that grown-ass person did not have decorum. So I refuse. So I'm going to have to meet them where they have met me, right? And Trump was getting with these reporters. That's why people think he's mean. He's this. It's like, you know why he's mean? Because you're used to people doing slick shit and not being checked, right? And then when somebody do check them, then they run and play the victim. That's what you're used to. You know? That's what a lot of people, you know, they're used to these deceptive ass people out here. Throwing rocks, hiding their hands, and then when they get a real dogmatic person on their ass, now all of a sudden they're a victim. Now all of a sudden they're just like attacked. It's like, then shut your damn mouth and stop running off at your mouth so damn much. Because sometimes some people, you meet the right person and they gonna give you the business. And they're not gonna care anything about your feelings or your mental health because you didn't care about those things to not even get this thing started. Right? So I can't care more about your mental health than you do. Close your mouth. Or stay out of the big boys' conversations. But anyways, you guys, Trump, I wanted to get back to him and Eric Adams real quick because he already know what it is. Trump know what it is. Oh, did I take it off? Oh, dang it. But Trump basically in his speech, he was giving some props to Eric Adams, and he was sympathizing with our brother, right? He said, "I know they coming after you because you was talking about the migrants. I know how this machine work, right?" And basically, Trump is saying the same thing that I said. That Eric Adams is a big old setup. They're gonna pile on a whole bunch of stuff on the brother, or whatever. Why? Because he let out his inner Republican. Eric Adams, stay true to yourself, brother. Going back over to the Republican side. Be who you are inside, bro. You are a black American man, brother. You are a Republican, right? Don't have no shame in your game. You are a Republican. Don't need stop switching back to the Democrats. You've been a Republican more than you've been a damn Democrat, and that's word 100. So they gonna go after your ass because they feel like you a traitor. But if you are able to get past all of this demonizing and witching against you, brother, going back over to the Republicans, and hopefully, if Trump wins, he will help you solve all of this witching, right? He will help get all of this stuff off your back, bro. But anyways, you guys, thank you for checking in, tuning in with me. I pray for everybody. I pray for these candidates, right? They're both ambitious. They want to win, right? Um, I think that, it's not about who you like, it's really about who do you think can get the job done, who has policies that most align with your household, what you're doing in life, right? And so, I don't really care for Kamala Harris's economic policies. I've said that before. There's some points from her economic policies though that I think that even Trump can possibly steal from. So regardless of who is selected, right? Hopefully they're pulling the best points and best practices from the economic plans so that we can start seeing this country turn around. Um, but other than that, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. I see you, Trump folks. You guys, Trump just Trump. Why is the Trump crowd hyper than the Harris crowd these days? Are you guys just giving up? Are you just kind of like losing your steam? It's like, like what's going on? The Trump people, they just be hype squad. Like they just be out there like we about to save our country, and the Harris people are like they don't want a woman. They're sexist. It's time. Lord have mercy. Can we please just let the witching be over? You guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I will catch you on the next one. If you did content like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. But one more again. One more again. All right. What you saying, Kamala?
I'll just let Kamala tell you.
Tell us.
Straight from her own mouth.
What's she about
And
to
to
tell
Indian
us?
Americans all across the United States, I want to wish you a happy Indian Independence Day. On August 15th, 1947, men and women all over India rejoiced in the declaration of the independence
I
of
love
the
people
country
who are proud of
India.
who they are.
Today, on August 15th, 2020, I stand before you as the first candidate for Vice President of the United States of South Asian descent.
She didn't say shit about the black part. Just saying. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.